Hello YouTube and welcome back to Tea and Book. Today's guest is Mathilde. Welcome Mathilde.
Hello.
So last time we talked about the chapter 3 and 4 of Mice and Men. And today's, what we are talking about?
Today we're going to present you the 5th and 6th chapter, which was the last chapter of this book and the conclusion of the story.
And we will also discuss with some tea. Today's tea is sponsored by Yogi Tea. So, let's start.
Don't forget your 20% reduction in the link below.
So, what happened in the week?
That's what we saw in the first video
Damn.
2 weeks ago.
So, what happened in the chapter 5?
Well, we left you in the chapter 4 where our characters were in Crook's bedroom. Actually, Crooks was left alone because it was the end of the chapter and George was back. So, Lenny and Kenji came back to the penthouse while Crooks was left alone, thinking about maybe this new friendship, this new bond he has created with his co-workers.
Okay, so let's talk about the chapter 5. So, in chapter 5, Lenny is left alone in the barn because all the other characters are playing pitch shows outside.
Because it's Sunday.
Because it's Sunday. And here, he was petting his pup and just after, he killed it because he was too violent. We all know his strength and
Yeah, he can't really control anything. That's the flow of this character. That's really what's gonna get him in trouble, and we knew it's in the first scene.
it's his dramatic flow and it's really important to note that.
Yes. And so in this chapter, we arrive at the beginning of the chapter, and Lenny is very sad because he killed his pup, and he knows he's gonna get scolded. You know he's gonna get scolded by George, and maybe he won't plant rabbits, so he's mad. And then who walks in?
Curly's wife. And what happened?
Lenny kills her, actually.
Yay! So, incroyable.
She came in to talk to him about, like, she started talking about her life and everything.
She's very bored, like, she's the most bored character in the whole story.
Yeah, her life is a bore. So she's really looking for interaction and human contact, and probably as well trying to make her husband jealous because he's a dick.
Yeah,
he's
with
a
her
douchebag.
sausage hair and also her splendid dress.
Yeah, she takes very care of her look and how she appears, and she takes care of her hair and she paints her nails and everything. And so she came in and she starts chatting with Lenny, and the conversation ended up about soft things.
Yeah, she said, oh my god, I have a lot of soft things, so you can touch.
Yeah, Lenny.
Like this, see?
Yeah, that's not really how it happened. No, so Lenny, he said that he loves soft things, and at the beginning she's a little, startled because it seems weird when you say it like that, and because he loved like rabbits and everything, he looked really like childish.
Yeah.
And then he said, no, I just love soft things. And she said, who don't love soft things? I love soft things too.
Acting time. Oh, it's really soft. Okay, so that's how the story goes. And then she died. It's, I think, the most funny death because it's really like, gosh, how?
Was it funny to you?
For me, how it's written, it's really weird. And how we can like move from this to this, like,
Well, I didn't find it funny, but I found interesting the fact that with the way Steinbeck described her after she's dead, it seems like, oh, she's so pure and innocent, and she was a poor innocent victim, and like it's not at all how I thought the character when she was alive. She was a brat, like she was flirting with everyone, putting everyone in making problems for everyone with her husband. She was really being angry, and like the previous chapter, she was terrible with Cruz. Like she talked to him like he was nothing, and she was really,
she used the N-word.
Superior, and yeah, she can be really mean. She was so mean, and then she dies, and as it's written, the meanness is gone from her face, and she's so innocent and young.
And maybe it's because his appearance died, that we saw his interior. Like we see how she is, maybe in her mind, like she was pure in her mind, or maybe she wasn't doing all of this because she was mean, but because she was frustrated.
Yeah, but she felt frustrated. She didn't felt pure and innocent and a poor damsel in distress waiting for her prince. Like, it's not like that.
Okay. So at this moment, when Lenny killed his wife, he decided to run and to hide in the brush, like George said at the beginning of the chapter 1.
Yeah, in case he did something fucked up, and he fucked up actually. So that's not a bad decision for such a bad decision character.
And then Candy and George arrived to the barn and discovered the terrible scene. So George said, it's too late, like we can't do anything else.
Actually, we don't know. I don't think George has decided anything at the end of this chapter. There is Curly, who's like, oh, I'm gonna kill these bastards and come with me and take your guns and we're gonna hunt him down. And George, he followed them, but we don't know what he's gonna do. I felt at this moment that he was really gonna save his friend. He was gonna tell them, oh, he went down south and then he'll go to the right place, and then he helped him and they go away together.
He knows that it's a non-returning point.
Yeah, he knows that.
That's
probably...
what I was telling about. We don't know what will happen in the next chapter, but we already know that it's too dramatic, too big, it's like fatality, and they can't do another thing.
Deep down, you know what happened was too. We know deep down, we know that Lenny's actions are too heavy and it can't end well for him. But in the meantime, at this point, I think you're still hoping for a happy ending.
Yeah, of course. Reading time. So, Mathilde will read you. So, Mathilde will read you an extract from the chapter 5.
Thank you. Lenny was in panic. His face points tortured. She screamed then, and Lenny's other hands closed over her mouth and nose. "Please don't!" he begged. "Oh, please don't do that! George be mad!" She struggled violently under his hands, her feet battered on the hay as she withered to be free. And from under Lenny's hands came a muffled screaming. Lenny began to cry with fright. "Oh, please don't do none of that," he begged. "George gonna say it on a bad thing. He ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits." He moved his hands a little and her hoarse cry came out. Then Lenny grew angry. "Now don't," he said. "I don't want you to tell. You're gonna get me in trouble just like George said you will. Now, don't you do that." And she continued to struggle and her eyes were wild with terror. He shook her then and he was angry with her. "Don't you go yelling," he said. And he shook her and her body flopped like a fish. And then she was still, for Lenny had broken her neck.
Tasty. Incredible.
Terrible.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Dramatic.
Perfect.
Violent. It's like a crisis.
Like death moments in books are really well written, so that's why I prefer death stories than I prefer death stories than birth stories. Like birth isn't interesting. But death, there's too many ways to die, and you can born just in one way.
Okay, why not? What did you thought of this chapter?
I was thinking like, oh my god, I have to read the. It was so there's too many suspense, and I was speaking in my mind like, what will happen and what will happen, and too many times in my mind.
Well, yeah, I was very impatient to read the next chapter. I couldn't hold myself, actually, I read it just after, right after. And yeah.
So we can also, let's remind us our hypothesis about the next chapter. Like, I thought that it would be a good ending. George and Lenny will be happy and they will go to a next trip, and they will continue, and it will be like a circle.
Yeah, I didn't thought it was gonna continue as a circle because I really felt like they passed a non-returning point. But in the meantime, I love good endings. I thought it was gonna end well. To me, it was really gonna end as George and Lenny would like go away and live in the forest, that kind of thing. I really love the kind of, nowadays in books, more like classic literature than more like modern literature. And nowadays there is really a lot of these books about people who like leave everything behind to drill the hooks in the forest and to like live in the nature, and really left the consumer society behind to live in the nature. And even though society wasn't as consummering as the time of Steinbeck, I really thought they were going to abandon everything and live in the forest or something like that. Because Lenny, I really feel like Lenny is unable to live with other people, but if he could have a life with just George and himself, it could end well for him. He could handle just a life with George and nobody else.
time. So it's time to the tea. So, what do you think about this yoga tea rooibos?
It has a really strong flavor, I think, and with something kind of sweet, like vanilla.
I think it represents well the character of Girlie's wife. Like, it's a strong perfume, but inside there's something sweet. So don't forget to click in the link below to have 20% off about this wonderful yoga tea rooibos. Yoga tea rooibos. Yoga tea rooibos.
Chapter 6?
Let's go to the chapter 6. So, what happened in Weed? So, chapter 6. Everybody die.
Actually, only Lenny is dead at the end of this chapter. But we can probably say that George is dead inside.
Yeah,
and
so
the
let's
other
start.
characters.
Let's start at the beginning.
Second
Don't speak when I speak, okay? Okay, so let's start where the chapter starts because you will understand more what we are talking about, right? So Lenny is desperate and he's like dreaming about his Aunt Clara and also about a giant rabbit who is talking. Like, can you do the
Yeah, he has
rabbit?
that kind of hallucination, but in the meantime, you can say it's his conscience talking to him. Because what does it say, the rabbit and Aunt Clara?
So Aunt Clara is saying like, you're not good enough, and the rabbit say, you're not good enough, and all together they say, you're not too good enough. And so the rabbit is like, you're not good enough, and the Aunt Clara is, you're not good enough, and everybody is like, you're not good enough, and Lenny is like, George, George.
Yeah, and he really starts panicking when the rabbit told him, George, he's gonna leave you, you're such a burden. He used George's aunt's words saying, without you, he could get a life, he could get a girl, but because of you, he can get nothing of that, and you're such a burden, and you should just die. It's really violent, and
It's remind me like my childhood is my father.
drama.
So, after George came and he said like, hey Lenny, and Lenny is like, hey, and so they discuss and Lenny is like, George, George, and George is like, what? And Lenny is like, George, and so they discuss about their dream, and so you know the dream about having
a
house
farm with rabbits, with alfala,
and
and
a lot of
chicken
rabbits
maybe.
and maybe chickens also.
So yeah, George took himself. He takes the initiative to tell Lenny about that dream and the future they're gonna have, which is weird because for all of the book it was always Lenny asking and George, who doesn't really want to do it, who ends up doing it anyway because Lenny is asking. So the fact that he by himself decide to tell him about this dream is weird.
Yeah.
And so he's in the back of Lenny, and what does he do?
And so the discussion is going on, and just a few moments later. So the conversation is like going on, and then George shoots Lenny. Like, it's really terrible because we didn't expect that. We already knew that there was something going on with the gun because
Carlson gun was gone missing, and they believe that George took it, but we as a reader know that he couldn't took it because we just saw him take
the double enunciation. We already know that there's something off here, and then there's like, so Lenny is dying, and it was during all this scene George asked about so during all this scene George asked about George asked Lenny to don't look at him and don't look at him and see
not to look at him. During
so,
all this scene, George asked Lenny not to look at him and to look at the horizon.
During all this scene, George is asking Lenny not to look at him and to see forward and to see the horizon and to see the horizon.
And so we have also a description of George who is holding a gun, very pointed at Lenny, and he's shaking very violently. And we can understand that he's in a dead end. He sees no other option than either his friend is to be killed by Kenji and his men, or he's to be sent to a psychiatric hospital where he will be probably tortured and everything. So really the most compassionate and the less terrible way he can offer to his friend is to kill him himself and without pain.
Can we say that they are in a rabbit hole?
Why did I do this video with you?
For monetization, right?
Yes.
So after the death of Lenny, everybody come, and so Curly, Carlson, Candy, everyone, Slim also, and so they're asking George about the situation, and he said that, and what happened. So he said that the gun was taken by Lenny, and he had to kill him. So it wasn't the case, but maybe he's doing that because they won't understand his action. They say oh, actually I killed Lenny because I thought that it was a better death for him. They wouldn't.
I have an hypothesis about that, actually. So he explains that Lenny stole Carson's gun and that he took the gun from him and shoot him in order to protect himself. My hypothesis is that Curly has announced that he wanted to kill Lenny himself. And so George, he went against that order, and so he wanted them to believe that he had no choice and he had to protect himself in order for them not to question his action, and in the meantime to justify the fact that he killed him instead of Kenji. That's why I'm stuck to them.
Non, on va couper ça en montage.
D'accord.
So, reading time. And George raised the gun and steadied it. George raised the gun and steadied it, and he brought the muzzle of it close to the back of Lenny's head. The hand shook violently, but his face set, and his hands steadied. He pulled the trigger. The crash of the shot rolled up the hills and rolled down again. Lenny jogged and then settled slowly forward to the sand, and he lay without quivering. George shivered and looked at the gun, and then he threw it from him, back up on the bank, near the pile of old ashes.
So sad. So tragic. And in the meantime, it's so sad, so tragic. And in the meantime, after you've read this scene, you can't believe otherwise than that it was that how you can't not think it was the only way after you've read this thing. It really fits perfectly, and it really seemed like it was the only way this story could end. It is the perfect end, even if it's very not perfect and very tragic and very bloody and sad. That's really how the friendship between George and Lenny is at its climax. That's really how the friendship between George and Lenny is at its climax.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about also the story of the house, the farm, the rabbits. It represents maybe like heaven, and it's where Lenny is going in one way, in another dimensional parallel universe.
There is also a kind of circling back to the same point thing when this place, this river and this bank of the river is the exact same place where the story began in the first chapter, and it is where the story will end. It's like the story is kind of complete. Their journey as people, as friendship is ending here, and the part of the journey that we saw started here. So it's really some kind of the end as a symbolic dimension, which is very definitive.
And it's hard to think about it, but George is in one way free, like he can do all the things he wanted to do. Like he told Lenny chapters before we saw it in previous videos about like he was thinking of going to bar to have good days and to be happy in his way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now he can do that.
Come on. So about the story.
Yeah, I think the characters would be more interesting if they were like deeper. For example, Curly's wife, Carson, Candice. All these characters are interesting, but they would be more interesting if they were like deeper.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And also about the story, I think like Curly's wife's death isn't as interesting as it could be. So I think that Curly's death could be more interesting, and like if it was more dramatic.
I think it's already
But
the right amount of dramatic, but we have different tastes.
so I think also we can make something. No, but the fact is that Lenny and George relationship is really interesting. Like it's really well written. So it's really well written. It's really a lot of hate, a lot of love, and yeah.
Yeah, they have a really deep yet complicated relationship.
Yeah. Oh.
So you can join us next week on my channel, where we will talk about philosophy from this book, because there is all this idea of living of the fat of the land from the Bible and everything. So we're gonna deepen this kind of philosophy. We're gonna link it to modern philosophy and modern ideologies, as well as modern movement of activists about this idea of living in connection with the nature and the myth of the good savage and everything.
And also, our next video would be about a new book, and it would be
The Importance of Being Earnest, played by Oscar Wilde.
You say the importance of being earnest, you see, like British.
Yeah. Don't brag.
It's not. What? What did you say? What did you say?
The importance of being earnest.
Oh, the importance of being earnest.
Yeah, don't brag.
Oh, I think I'm the most earnest person.
Yeah.
You think that the cat is the earnest person?